Welcome to Google Ads Decoded. Practical talk to help you navigate change, be in the know about new and upcoming features, and ultimately drive more value from Google Ads. I'm your host, Ginny Marvin, Google Ads Product Liaison. In each episode, we'll hear from people behind Google Ads, share actionable insights, answer top questions from the ads community. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, let's dive in. In this episode, we're covering two new, much talked about features: AI Max for search campaigns and channel performance reporting for PMAX campaigns. AI Max is now fully rolled out in open beta, and PMAX channel performance is currently rolling out in open beta. I chatted with product managers Caren, Zeng, and Akabas. You'll hear about the vision behind AI Max, why now for PMAX channel insights and other reporting, where to see how your shopping ads are performing in PMAX, plus a peek at the product roadmap and more. I hope you enjoy the conversation, and then stick around for Q&A from the ads community. Thank you so much for joining us, Caren and Tal. Caren, can you start and talk a little bit about how you are working on AI Max and what else you've been working on at Google?
Sure. Thank you for having us. I'm excited for this conversation. My name is Caren. I'm a product manager on search advertising and automation based in New York, and I work on AI Max, among other features, for the search advertising suite.
Great. And Tal, can you share more about what you do at Google?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny, again for having us. My name is Tal. I'm a product manager. I've been at Google for 13 years, based out of Mountain View. I work on the advertiser platform, focused on automation features, so Performance Max, but also extending to features in search and other campaign types, and really excited to be here.
Before we dig into specifics, I would love to hear more about your perspective on some of the unique challenges in defining and scoping AI products and how quickly things change in this area. And why don't we start with you?
I think in short, the velocity is just so fast now. I've been working on this business for around 4 years now, and it feels like every month there's some new AI model breakthrough, and we have to keep on top of that and bring the best to Google. But people are also playing around with AI tools so much now, and that leads to new expectations and new experiences and degrees of familiarity that we just haven't seen before. And so month over month, there's so many changes, and it feels like we're designing almost a new user interaction model. So when we're designing these new products, it's really exciting, and it just makes for a very fast rate of development.
Tal, the space has always been fast moving, but the more I talk with advertisers, the pace of change is very much top of mind. So love to hear what your thoughts are on this too.
I totally agree with Caren. Google's been at the forefront of AI for many years. Like, think back to the first Google Photos app where you could search for your cat or something and have all the photos appear. And Google Ads especially has been using, traditionally called AI and ML for a long time. PMAX was the first AI-based campaign to market, now 5-6 years ago. But what Caren said is so true, that now with the pace of innovation, changes in the underlying models, changes in new capabilities, it changes how we think about things and how we try to optimize, what is the next thing we can deliver to help advertisers achieve better value in this new era.
Thinking with my advertiser hat on, we think about the impact of having to respond to the changes. You're thinking about it from the product perspective of how to help advertisers meet the needs of their potential audiences and responding to how users are changing behavior. I find oftentimes there's a lag, and users are often ahead of where we are as marketers.
But I think that's what these solutions are trying to do, right? So Performance Max across all of Google channels, AI Max on search is finding the user at the right moment. And we're using two kind of broad capabilities of AI. One is just kind of the traditional machine learning, but there's been so many advances in how we can deliver the right ad at the right time to find the next marginal value. And we've had a ton of innovation. On top of that, I think we had 80 something launches across all the channels last year that delivered advertiser value. And then the other capability, right, is the Gen AI, where we can now, with creatives, show much more personalized creatives to the right user, obviously with advertisers in the loop to, verify and make sure it meets their brand guidelines. But that's just such a new capability. And like you said, meeting the user's expectation for what they're experiencing.
I also think the moment is so interesting because people are using these new form factors of searching so much more, right? Like AI mode, I'm typing in a full sentence, right? When you have a full sentence,
Paragraphs, yeah. I mean, literally paragraphs, yeah.
all the details. And so the question is, how do you advertise against that, right? Like, how do you even think about the targeting and the creatives and actually staying relevant to that conversation? You can even search with an image, right? Or you can have a
Right.
back and forth conversation. So there's so many ways that we need to, be aware of how users are searching, and then also design solutions to really address that and meet users where they are.
I have an example from last night. Like I was blown away. I'm renting some camera equipment for like a trip next week, and like one of the pieces came broken, and I like literally took a picture of it, and I asked like AI more like I was like, is this a problem, or like could I use tape or glue to like fix it? And it gave me like a really amazing answer. It figured out what it was
Yeah.
and reasoned about like what I could do about it. It was incredible. So yeah.
Wow. Well, this is a perfect segue to start talking about how user behavior is changing, search behavior is changing, and let's dig into AI Max. It's now fully rolled out in open beta. So if you have not checked it out in your campaigns, you can see it now in campaign settings, and it's a one-click toggle in your search campaigns to enable a suite of AI-powered targeting and creative features. So we've got search term matching, which enables broad match in the back end, and keywordless matching. So think dynamic search ads, PMAX for search targeting, to find untapped relevant queries and ultimately more conversions, conversion value. Text customization for more relevant ad creative. And this used to be called automatically created assets. I think Caren will talk about the evolution of this piece in particular. That allows your ads to dynamically adapt your headline and descriptions to be more relevant based on landing pages, ads, keywords in your ad groups to be more relevant to the query. And then final URL expansion, bringing that into search campaigns for finding the most relevant landing page, and then customizes your headlines to, again, be more relevant. And then there are lots of other controls and reporting, which we'll also get into. So a couple of things that stand out to me with the introduction of Search Max is this isn't necessarily introducing net new features, but it's packaging them in a new way and bringing new capabilities to search campaigns specifically. And the other thing that sticks out to me is that advertisers don't need to reorganize their existing search campaigns, which is like fairly unprecedented, I would say. Want to talk more about that. And then also want to talk more about the reporting and controls that are also automatically built in. So with all that, we'd love to get your POV. We'll start with Caren. The decision to build AI Max this way.
I think the history and the design choices are really interesting as well. So as Tal mentioned, Performance Max been launched for a few years, and we saw that people really liked Performance Max, especially the performance of the campaign. But we also saw that a lot of folks wanted to run dedicated search campaigns the way that they do today. We also saw that some folks wanted more choice, they wanted more transparency and more control. And so we really wanted to meet you or like advertisers where they are, right? And make available like the best tech on the campaign that you also want to continue running. And so, Ginny, to your point, it's really important for us to provide that control. So like, and also ease of use. And from the get-go, having a one-click opt-in was really important to us because it's in place on your existing campaigns that have all the historical knowledge of past serving traffic, past metrics, things like that. That's really integrated into your workflow, but then also customizable, right? Sometimes you want to opt into the suite, but maybe there's certain controls you want to use more, certain ones that you want to use at a different time. Like that optionality is really key, especially with a campaign like search that is so robust. And then the transparency part is really important to us too. The reporting on search is something that we really wanted to focus on to make this whole suite come together to show you AI Max is touching a lot of different parts of your campaigns. Here's the cohesive picture of here's the search term that the user was searching for, and then here's the headline that served, and then here's the landing page that also served with it. And this is the impact of AI Max. And of course, if you want to delve deeper into each of these components, we have all of that in the keywords report, the assets report, so on and so forth. But like this cohesive picture, we want to really integrate in place, but also give that functionality that you have been asking for. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great.
no, I agree. And one of the things, like when we were developing PMAX and we saw success with it, we saw that advertisers were really benefiting from the new keywordless technology and automated creatives that we had developed on search. And as we talked about with AI, was evolving so rapidly. And so we really just wanted to make sure that was available to all advertisers where they were buying and what they were comfortable with. So I think that's a great innovation, and I'm really excited that this will deliver a lot of value.
There are also questions about if I'm running PMAX campaigns, what do I need to be keeping in mind with search and some of the initial considerations that people should think about if they're running PMAX already?
Yeah. So I guess the straight answer is if you're using all the best practices with AI Max, right, at the campaign and ad group level, then it is PMAX technology for search. And that was very intentional. As I said, we wanted to basically bring that value to advertisers wherever they want to buy. And we saw a lot of success in PMAX, both, across many use cases for advertisers. And so making sure that everyone can take advantage of that, that was the main motivation here. We see that value delivery for advertisers actually increased as advertisers have adopted other campaigns. So PMAX still adds a lot of value. But one way to think about it would be advertisers have many different use cases, right? So whether that's like different lines of business, different product lines, promotions. And so if you're running the exact same keyword for the exact same geo for the exact same goal, you don't need PMAX and search running on both of those. That being said, many times advertisers will have different segments of their business that they want to manage differently from a creative ROI budgeting perspective. And that's where both of those campaigns can really help advertisers get the best of what Google Ads has to offer. Plus, obviously, PMAX offers the cross-channel buying, which gives you access to that inventory, but also dynamic budget and bidding allocation across those and sharing signals. So there's different value props for both.
Great. Yeah. And I'll just add that we do get questions about how if keyword prioritization changes at all, and just keyword prioritization still works the exact same way with search and PMAX if AI Max is enabled. And speaking of that, though, I want to dive a little bit more into the search term matching. And so it brings together broad match and keywordless technology, similar to what dynamic search ads offers, plus some additional controls and reporting. So Caren, I'd love to talk a little bit more about how it differs from dynamic search ads, and then a little bit more specifically on keywordless technology, because we do get questions about what does that mean? Is this just DSA? So we'd love to hear more on that, Caren.
For sure. Yeah. So AI Max and DSA, let's start with the commonality. They both have targeting and they have creative components, right? That's true. But there are differences in both the targeting and the creatives between DSA and AI Max. So let's start with the targeting. For DSA, we only use the landing pages we provided for targeting. So we just take the landing page and then we target based on the landing page. AI Max uses the landing page, but it uses all your other inputs as well, which is parity with what we do on Performance Max search. So we also use your creatives. So we do asset-based targeting. We use those landing pages. And then we also use your existing keywords in the ad group. And so if you have exact and phrase keywords, then we create those broad match variants of those keywords and also target based on that. So that targeting is a bit more expansive and we use more signals to inform that. On the creative side, dynamic search ads, they dynamically create headlines based on the user search, right? And the text that's most relevant to the landing page. Oftentimes this is, using things like page titles on the landing page, but you need to provide a description line yourself. But for AI Max, what we want it to do is really maximize, the relevance of the headlines and the descriptions to the landing page. And so we not only customize your headlines, but also your descriptions, but we also use additional signals. So we use the landing page to generate your assets. We use existing ads in your account. We use keywords in your ad group. And we also, for English language campaigns or English language landing pages, use generative AI to take in those signals and then really write it to be like advertising forward. It's like calls to action, unique selling points, and like staying safe to your brand, but getting some more variety than based on the inputs that were provided. So those are the key differences, I would say. I would say AI Max is the next step, basically, evolution.
How do I make my ads still stand out when Gen AI are being used? I'd love to have that conversation about differentiation and how to use your brand to help guide the AI. So, Tal, I don't know if you want to tackle that?
I can start, and Caren, please jump in since I know you have a lot of experience with creative. So I would say there's a couple of things. I mean, obviously using all these best practices, right? If other advertisers are using them, it's important that you're also able to use them and take advantage of them for your business. So as Caren talked about, like thinking about the brand profile and what guardrails you want to put on the AI to make sure that it's within, how you want your brand showing up, but taking advantage of those best capabilities. And then there's other really important things that you can do on top of that. So for example, making sure you have image assets in your campaign, right? So that we can serve image extensions. If you have a product feed, making sure those are attached. Getting, more search themes, more keywords, whether that's PMAX or AI Max into the mix, right? Google's trying to do the best for targeting, but there's certainly like still a need for the human in the loop, to make sure that you're showing up on the right searches and with the right creative. You can segment your ads and asset groups appropriately, right? So making sure you have the best themes. And now we're actually rolling out capabilities for more asset testing. So that's coming to PMAX. We have a version of that in search, and we'll be bringing more capabilities with ad variations. And so you can run tests and see, what themes are working well and resonating with your users, and then double down on those. So maybe those are a couple ideas, but Caren, I curious if you have any other thoughts.
Those are great. I also would add on that with this new age of AI-based creative generation, I would view AI Max as a amplifier on the work that you've already put in. Right? You've already invested so much time on making your landing page good, writing really good ads to highlight your business selling points and write calls to action. So the key thing is we're just leveraging that to customize your ads, right? The work that you've already put in. And so I would say the best way to stay ahead is still to make sure your landing page is up to date with the most effective products and marketing messages, and we'll just handle the advertising for you, or like give you a helping hand there. The one thing I will add on though is, as we're doing automated creatives, have especially built solutions to make sure those assets that we generate are brand safe and as accurate as possible, like what Tal was mentioning as well. So like they're dedicated quality solutions that we've invested in to control for generative AI hallucinations, for instance. And we make sure to regenerate assets every time your landing page changes to stay as fresh as possible. And so, right, I think that you can rest assured what we are generating as doing as best as possible to keep true to what you've given us.
Yeah, and actually, going back to our conversation about AI advancements happening so rapidly, you and I were talking earlier about sort of the advances in text customization from the earlier days of automatically created assets, and how the improvements that you've seen and been able to build into that products. I'd love to hear how advertisers, if they tried ACA, why they might want to rethink about giving text customization a chance.
Yes, I think we've been investing a lot on the quality of our work. And so one key difference is we have new generation techniques to write call to action and unique selling point assets. Like we've tried to improve that as a designated effort. And I think that really helps with this differentiation point, which is like, we're amplifying it and we're really allowing you to continue to stand out. So that's one way that we have improved our generation. I think also in the past, what we have seen, what we've talked about with like DSA before, is you have headlines and then you provide an advertiser description. I think when queries become longer form, their images, they might deviate more from the original query. Like it's more important to have a more customized headline and description. And so with AI Max here, we have made sure that our description customization technology is also up to snuff. And so that way you can like have a really cohesive customized ad.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked at the beginning about the different user expectations and how people are using these tools in their organic experiences, whether that's like searching for the camera equipment or you expect a very customized answer given the new technology. And so making sure that the ads go along and feel native with that is really important. And that's only, going to increase exponentially. So the more you can jump in now, get used to that, right, in the current environment, make sure that you understand how to use the tools, pair all those best practices correctly, is only going to become increasingly important.
And if you're working with a separate landing page team, those relationships should be that much more important these days. One more question on AI Max. We have a lot of new controls and reporting in there. Just want to highlight some of the controls. We've got brand inclusions for search term matching control when you're using it with your brand campaigns, and URL inclusions and exclusions for final URL expansion controls, and then location controls at the ad group level for location of interest. And I'd love to hear about some of the use cases where you think this could be really valuable for advertisers who have location intent needs.
I'm happy to elaborate. Yeah, so yes, we have new controls. So there's location targeting at the ad group level, and then also brand controls at both the campaign and the ad group level. And so for this location control one in particular, what we wanted to achieve is to allow for stronger geo controls at the ad group level in addition to the campaign level that's available today. And this really helps obviate the need for having keywords in your ad groups that have location terms. Instead of just saying hotels, you would say Hotel Zurich, and you would have like a location appended to each one. We wanted to reduce that complexity for you there. The other goal is with AI Max, there is now keywordless traffic, right? Traffic that's not based on the exact keywords that you provided so far. We also want to enable geo controls on that new segment of traffic. And so I can go into like maybe a bit of an example that can help ground this a bit more. Imagine you are an advertiser and you are advertising to users in the US and they're searching for hotels in Zurich. So today you might have a campaign level location of presence for, United States, the country. And then you might have keywords saying Hotel Zurich, like Hotels Zurich Old Town, right? And your eligible queries would be something like hotels in Zurich Old Town, right? But now with this new control that we're introducing, you can just make your keywords hotels, and then your ad group level geo intent you would provide and say something like Zurich, the city. And then that's much simpler as a workflow. And also it gets you that same query stream. And then if you provide this Zurich level ad group level control, all your keywordless traffic will also target Zurich. So in that way, it's really helpful for all advertisers, but I think like travel and retail in particular, like can really simplify their workflows.
All right, I want to switch gears to PMAX channel reporting. Obviously, this has been a top ask from advertisers and is rolling out. If you don't see it yet, you're going to see it soon. Talk about the vision and reason for bringing channel reporting to PMAX at this time, and a little bit of background about what that process looked like.
So when we first developed PMAX, right, the intent was you can serve across all Google channels, and we wanted you to focus on your business objectives, your goals, and we've added a ton of goal expression to the mix to help steer the AI in that direction, and then focus on the output, what the AI is delivering, and not so much think about like where Google's delivering that value on each channel. That being said, as we've improved the algorithms, as we've improved our understanding and advertisers have asked for more, we've wanted to give that transparency. And we've actually been iterating on this feature for more than a year directly with advertisers through research, through pilots and betas to see how can we deliver that transparency across channels in the most effective way that both, explains how the Performance Max AI is delivering the value across all Google channels, how those channels are working for you, and then give insights and diagnostics about what's working and what's not, so that can tie into the actionability and what can I do about that. So this is just the first version, and we feel really good about. We've heard great feedback from advertisers that the transparency is helping, but there's a lot more to come, both in sort of ease of use and how we can make this more useful within the product, but also insights and actionability that we can build on top of it.
I think the note that it's first phase is really important to understand. And also I heard you say we're going to keep getting feedback. And I know, so for those who are not aware, you might see a little thumbs up, thumbs down in two places on channel reporting. So if you hit thumbs up, thumbs down, that's super helpful. But also when you do that, you'll see a box to enter specific feedback, and that feedback's super helpful. So just a PSA to give feedback on how channel reporting is working for you and what you'd like to see. So, and with that, thinking about how to use the reports, I think also some of the feedback we get is like, how is this actionable? What do I do? And so in many cases, it might not be that unusual for advertisers to see that PMAX may be appearing to favor certain channels, or that ROAS is higher or lower in some channels than others. Can you talk a little bit about why that mix can happen, and you may see diversity of ROAS and impact across channels, and how advertisers should be thinking about variances.
And, that's one of the reasons it sort of took us a long time when we worked with advertisers to develop this in a way that we could explain what PMAX is doing, because at a high level, PMAX is trying to find the next best marginal auction to serve on that's most economical from the advertiser perspective, acting as the advertiser's agent. And so it's not designed to equalize ROI across all channels necessarily. It's not, maximize search and then go to another channel. But across all of those auctions, we're trying to basically find the next marginal dollar, where to put that. And so that can lead to, especially if you look at short time periods, ROI can look different across channels. It's not necessarily like the top thing you should be looking at when you're using the channel report. You asked about actionability though, and I think there are a bunch of things that we do want advertisers to use this for. So first and foremost, we built it for transparency. It was a major ask. We want to show advertisers and help them understand how PMAX is delivering value, whether that's just so you can explain to your stakeholders or, whether you need to like go off and spin off other strategies. You can see, for example, I'm not serving on this channel, but I really want to be there, even if it's not the most economical for this campaign. And so you can go and do a dedicated AI Max campaign or a dedicated, demand gen campaign. Also, within your PMAX campaign, you'll see at the bottom of the page, we've added diagnostics. So you can see maybe I'm not serving on a particular channel because I don't have the right assets, or my budget's not high enough, or I don't have the right ROI target, and we're trying to add more insights there. And then lastly, we hope it also helps give insight into kind of where the best value is. And so if you're seeing, we've heard from advertisers an example of, I think my video is working, but I'm not sure. And so now you could see, like, let's say it's working really well. It's delivering a lot of conversions.
One question I see from retail advertisers is, why aren't shopping ads broken out in search so I can just see what's happening in shopping with text? Talk about the segmentation for ads with product data and how it's showing.
Yeah. So I think that's a misconception, actually, which is great feedback for us and how we evolve the user experience to make that more clear. We call it ads with product data. Segmentation, it's in the channel performance report. It's right at the top. It'll then segment your Sankey chart and also segment the table below. You can do the same thing in the download. And basically what that's doing is it's positioned that way because we do show product ads across all the channels. Traditionally, at Google, sometimes an advertiser may think of shopping as just the product listing ads that show up on the search page, but we're actually using your merchant center feed across all Google channels. And so that's why we've actually named the segmentation that way. But just to be super clear, if you apply that segmentation and you look at your search data, you are getting the breakdown of what were my shopping ads on search, traditionally called, PLAs, and what were my search text ads. So you have access to that data, and we'll look at, how we can make that clearer in the UI.
That's great. Yeah, perfect answer. And I think, it's just a semantics. So if you are wondering how to see your shopping data, that is how you can do that in search. And then also just a quick note that you can also segment by video, as with video as well.
That's right. Because we've heard, another misconception from the past is, YouTube equals video. And that's actually, not true, and increasingly not true, right? YouTube video is the most important, format on YouTube, especially as you think of different orientations with shorts and things like that. There's a lot of image ads on YouTube, and there's also search ads on YouTube. And so we wanted to give more insight into that type of segmentation. Going back to the example I mentioned, you want to know, how often is this video that I spent time creating serving on YouTube? You can then see that. And then as we talked about, you can see even a more detailed view in the asset report.
So we've talked about channel reporting. We talked about the asset reporting. There's also search term reporting for PMAX and rolling out. So love to hear a little bit more about how you think advertisers should be using the search term reporting. Again, this has been a big ask, and it's in addition to the search terms insights that has been available. So love to hear more about your thoughts and suggestions for advertisers to be using that.
Yeah. So like you said, we've had the search term insights available in PMAX, but the search term report is rolling out right now as we speak. Should be available to all of our advertisers very soon. In terms of how advertisers should use it, first and foremost, the way you use it in search, it's useful, right? If you see search terms that you don't want to serve on, you can add negative keywords in Performance Max. That also launched earlier this year. We raised the limit on it. We heard feedback. And so don't overuse it. But if you see terms that you don't think you want to show up on for your brand, for either performance or brand safety reasons, that's one use case. And that's where the search term insights we thought, would also be helpful because it sort of categorizes the queries. You don't have to look at every individual query. We're trying to bucket it for you using AI technology to do that and bring those insights. So you can use those interchangeably, right? So you can take a look at the insights, see if there are any top level trends, but then if you want to dive deeper, you have the full report available.
We hinted that this is phase 1 of channel reporting. Looking ahead, whether that's reporting and what else might you tease from the PMAX perspective?
Sure. So I talked a little bit about, we're going to bring more ease of use features into the channel reporting. We're going to bring it to the account level, the API, et cetera, just to make that easier to use. But I think taking a step back, more broadly for Performance Max, what remains the most critical is getting the objective function right for the AI, and this will be true for AI Max as well. So the more you can steer the AI using the objective function is, as we go more expansive, whether that's across channels or on search, or as the modalities on search change, making sure that you're able to accurately reflect your business objectives into our system so that we're working together, right? The AI is actually working for you is the most important. And so you'll see a lot of investment into how can you express your goals properly into the system. Things like new customer acquisition enhancements. So we launched high value mode across both PMAX and now coming to search to say, not only do I want to focus on new customers, I want the most high value, lifetime value new customers. We're bringing prospecting capabilities to Performance Max, and we'll bring that into search campaigns as well, to basically say, how can I target my traffic to users who are unaware of my brand? And those are the most valuable users that I can acquire through Google Ads. Things like re-engagement, other forms of value expression, those are all things to focus on and where you can really use the capabilities to steer the AI. So that would be maybe where I leave you. Bringing it back to the channel performance, we're trying to anchor it on the goals that you've selected, right? So we show basically how do each of the channels deliver against the goals you've selected in your campaign. So making sure those are right and accurately reflect what you're trying to do to the best of your ability is probably the one thing I would leave advertisers with.
All right, lots of great takeaways from that conversation. Hopefully you found it helpful to hear about the evolution of AI Max from Caren, how keywordless matching in AI Max has evolved from dynamic search ads, and how it has parity with PMAX for search technology. And I hope that it gave you some good ideas for how to get the most out of the first phase of PMAX channel reporting, and stay tuned for more on some of those features mentioned as well. Now on to the Q&A round. I'm going to answer a couple of recent questions that we've received from the ads community. Question number 1, why am I seeing some of my headline assets show alongside my site links in my search ads? So we all know that different combinations of content and messaging are going to resonate differently with various users and queries. And so we've been working to enable more flexibility in RSA construction in order to be able to assemble more relevant, high-performing ads for each query. And you may recall last year when we announced that we may show one headline when it's predicted to perform better, and then show the second headline in front of your description line. And then earlier this year, we announced that up to 2 RSA headlines can now serve as site links when they are, again, predicted to improve performance of your ad. And headlines are often some of your most impactful creatives, so this gives you more opportunity for those great assets to resonate and help drive ad performance. All right, question number 2. Would you say that AI Max for search is suitable for smaller accounts or niche advertisers who don't have as much volume or conversion data? In earlier testing, we've seen that AI Max can be effective for accounts of varied sizes. And there's no minimum conversion recommendation to enable AI Max, but keep in mind that you do need to use a conversion-based smart bidding strategy in order for search term matching to work. And just a reminder that smart term matching is on by default and controlled at the ad group level when AI Max is enabled. And so far, we've seen that advertisers who are mostly using exact and phrase match keywords tend to see the highest uplift in conversions and conversion value when they've enabled AI Max in their search campaigns. All right, that'll do it. Thanks so much for tuning in to Google Ads Decoded. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this very first episode. Please share your feedback and stay tuned for next week's episode on demand gen campaigns.